This is the Food and Justice Podcast with Brenda Sanders. In this episode, I'll be speaking with Marvin Hayes, founder of the Baltimore Compost Collective, about the enormous amount of food waste generated by our food system, the ways composting food waste can combat environmental racism, how the Baltimore Compost Collective initiative is leading the way on the path towards zero waste, and so much more. Stay tuned. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us for the Food and Justice Podcast with Brenda Sanders. I am so pleased today to have a wonderful guest with us to teach us all about all of his expertise and knowledge, as well as entertain us, because he is quite a wonderful character. I'm here with Marvin Hayes, who is I would say, the founder of the Compost Collective here in Baltimore City. So I want to just go ahead and read this amazing bio, and then we're going to jump into the questions. Marvin Hayes has been a youth educator and mentor for over 20 years. His professional experiences include running recreation programming, alternate education youth counseling, mediation services, and youth workforce development. He has a patience and a presence with the youth that cannot be taught in a classroom, but has been cultivated by his lifetime of experience. Recently, Marvin has been the leader of a community-based food scrap collection and composting service as a startup for local job creation. Hiring underemployed area youth, Marvin has helped grow the idea into a service that collects over a quarter ton of food scraps each week to turn into nutrient-rich soil for the new growth. Oh my goodness, that is so exciting. So exciting to me. You know, I have done a little bit of food justice. I do food justice work, and I've done a little bit of climate justice work and environmental justice work. And so I am just like so pleased to have you on the show. Thank you so much, Marvin, for being here.
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you so much. But Brenda, before I start, I just have to give a disclaimer that even though us being virtual and people getting their vaccine of their choice and us doing social distance, that I am contagious. It is my deliberate intention to give each and everybody who's tuned in Compost Fever. My name is Marvin Hayes once again, and I'm the program manager for the Baltimore Compost Collective. Once again, we are a youth-led food scrap collection service, and we serve the Wakanda of South Baltimore called the Filbert Street Garden, and we provide the soil enhancer for residents who live in a food insecure, food apartheid neighborhood where it takes them over half an hour to get to a store that's not filled with GMOs and processed food. So me and my youth collect food scraps from Federal Hill, Riverside, Locust Point, Brooklyn, Curtis Bay, and now Mount Washington, and we bring it back to the garden and through a processing called composting. So we're going to start out with a little education. Composting is the decomposing of organic material like your food and vegetable scraps turned into a beautiful, beautiful soil enhancer, which I love to call black gold.
Wow. Okay. Well, look, this is, the audience and I are learning that, at the same time, because I had no idea that we were going to school. But now that I know, I am quite prepared. I have my little notebook here, and I'll be taking notes. So thank you so much for that.
Excellent.
So Marvin, you and I have something in common. We were both born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. So I want to ask you, what part of Baltimore are you from, and what was it like for you growing up?
I'm proud to say that I'm a resident of Sandtown, Winchester, Penn North. I had an amazing opportunity growing up. It was a neighborhood back then where my neighbors assisted me in my learning and my development, and we really were a tight community. And I was a proud graduate of Frederick Douglass High School. I attended St. Francis as well, and I went to parochial school at St. Alphonsus for my middle school education. So my mom made sure that she provided me opportunities so I did not, I still was exposed. And that's how I became a master composter. That's how I became environmental justice leader for Baltimore, for stepping out of my box and trying to learn something different because I was exposed. So I tried to give that back to the youth that I work with and give them an opportunity to travel and be exposed so they can make informed decisions and unlearn some of the learning that they have learned in the past.
Wonderful. And Sandtown Winchester, unfortunately, came to national attention, of course, as we all know, during, the Baltimore uprising, and is the neighborhood that Freddie Gray was from. So, yeah, it's just so wonderful to hear your story, and the fact that you are, coming back to give back to the youth. That's a story that we just don't hear enough. And I wish we heard it more. And so that makes me so appreciative of you and, everything that you do. So
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you, Brenda. I just wanted to speak on Freddie. Freddie was one of my children that I had the honor of raising. He was a member of the football team that I started with, Jermaine and Imara Lewis. Jermaine was a former Baltimore Raven. His wife, Imara, grew up with me here in Sandtown, Winchester on Moses Street, and we created the Sandtown Wolverines when the Police Athletic League took over Lillian Jones Recreation Center. Our youth had to travel all the way to Lakeland, which is all the way in South Baltimore. Big shouts out to Lakeland. Rest in peace, Dee for doing an amazing job. When he won the national championship, a lot of the youth were from Sandtown, Winchester. So we wanted to have the youth to have an opportunity for athletic league and for a football team here. So I partnered with them and were able to start the Sandtown Winchester Wolverine, who Freddie was a member of. Rest in peace, Freddie. Love you, man. Justice for Freddie Gray.
Thank you for that. So in your bio, you said that you have 20 years of experience working with youths. In what capacity have you worked with them, and what motivates you to work with young people?
I have been managing and operating youth programs here in Baltimore City. Started off at the Sandtown Winchester Community Center, running the youth advocacy program, a place that the neighborhood children called the center. It was just a place to give them activities when they were known to get into high risk activities. And I've been so blessed to raise so many children here in Sandtown Winchester, which are like family to me. Basketball was a big part of my education and my advocacy with youth, running a program called It's Bigger Than Basketball, where I use basketball as just a carrot to get the youth to participate in financial literacy, mentoring programs, job readiness opportunity, life skills, of course, composting, exposing them to waste, farm to table, back to waste, show them how to complete that whole circle and exposing them to a healthy lifestyle and healthy diet. Also had the opportunity to work with Operation Safe Kids to help youth to get their GED who were involved in the Juvenile Justice Center. Also worked at the Chesapeake Center as a counselor for alternative program where we got youth job training. We helped them get their GED or high school diploma. They could get a safe serve license to operate, to work in the food industry. I'm sure you're familiar with the safe serve certification.
Absolutely.
So all of our youth got those. And I ran an amazing program at Garrison Middle School. Shout outs to all my rising scholars who are leaders. I had the opportunity to work with some, they like to call high-risk youth, but I call them my leaders because they all had the leadership and the entrepreneurial skills and the management skills that they needed to be leaders, and had an opportunity to run that alternative program at Garrison where my youth who were failing, 90% of them wound up being on the honor roll with just a little bit of structure and a little bit of care. And it just shows that if we just support our youth in Baltimore City, how far they can go, and to have a male in their life, a positive, supportive male in their life, and they can see that's doing farm work, that's doing master composting, who's a vegan, who's trying to help out his community and develop Sandtown, Winchester, Harlem Park communities with the master plan. So I just tried to just be a model and show by example. And I ask for all my youth just to try to give back. If that's all you can do, reach back and help someone else who have been going through. Sometime we have to go through a test in order to have a testimony, and that testimony may help somebody else. We wonder why we go through things, but going through those things, you wouldn't be able to help somebody else along the way. So that's what I try to be, a blessing to bless others.
And you definitely are. You absolutely are.
Food and Justice is made possible with support from Defund Big Meat, a grassroots effort to encourage strategic collaboration across all sectors of global justice. Find more information about Defund Big Meat at www.defundbigmeat.org. And A Well-Fed World, an international hunger relief and food justice organization advancing plant-based foods and farming to create a nourished and climate-friendly future. Find out more about A Well-Fed World at www.awfw.org. Thank you.
So, composting. What sparked your interest in composting?
So I would say my love of youth sparked my interest for composting. I was told composting by a son of a dreamer and two young men from Ben Franklin High School, where I was just a driver. I was told that I would just have to drive them through this neighborhood, and they would pick up these buckets and they would take them back to the garden and they would process them and they would turn it into this thing called black gold soil enhancer. And the youth trained me, and I saw that they needed a little help with their flyer, with their 2-minute spill, with their educating people about composting. Us being people of color going into a neighborhood, we were known as those people who was taking buckets out of people's backyard and putting it into this van. And my customers, my pioneers for composting for Baltimore City and Federal Hill and Locust Point got on that crime station and told them those guys are doing environmental justice work. They are diverting those organic materials from going into the landfills and the incinerators, which are causing Baltimore City $55 million in health damages. And we can divert our waste with the alternative. The trash incineration is composting. We can divert that organic material into black gold soil enhancer, where we can grow food. When you put compost into the soil, it sequesters carbon and puts carbon back into the soil. And when you have healthy soil, you have healthy vegetables. So I caught Compost Fever from a son of a dreamer and two young men from Ben Franklin High School, and my love for them and seeing them develop, because not only are we rescuing food scraps from going into the landfills and incinerators, but we're giving young men from a disenfranchised neighborhood an opportunity to learn small-scale composting, life skills, character development, entrepreneurial skills, and earn a living wage, and then be able to train the trainer and then teach their peers the benefits of composting. So it's just amazing that my love for youth have brought me to have Compost Fever and trying to spread a compost pandemic throughout Baltimore City.
I mean, it's working on me, I'll tell you that. I'm getting the fever, I'm getting it. All right, so I want to talk numbers. What is the estimated percentage of food that of our food supply that ends up in waste or as waste in the US?
So 80% of Baltimore municipal trash can be composted, recycled, or reused. So 22% of that is food waste. If we divert that organic material and process it and turn it into black gold soil enhancer, we can go from waste to farm to table, back to waste, back to farm, and complete that sustainable circle.
Okay. Wow, that's significant. That's a significant
Yes.
number. And that's just locally.
Yes,
you know?
that's just locally.
Mean, wow. So like seeing something like this catch on and like spread out, I can just see like a real difference being made. I mean, people talk the talk, but
yes,
you
I
know.
am so excited, Brenda, to announce that DPW has called Compost Fever, and now they are accepting free compost drop-off at all of their collection sites. I have been
What?
advocating, me and my youth have been advocating for this for the last 6 years, and we are so excited because this is the step towards curbside
Mm.
compost pickup. For when you put out your recyclables, you will put out your composting bucket, and the city would take it to a mid-size facility where we could hire youth. We could hire all of the squeegee guys and teach them
Oh.
entrepreneurial skills. They may not be composters, but we can give them that entrepreneurial training so they can then go on and create their business plan and create a plan to put squeegee businesses all throughout Baltimore City and do it the correct way.
Mm.
And we can turn our hustlers into haulers. We can have our guys trained and coming from the facilities back into the community to learn composting and be able to use that and give them a living wage to create a sustainable income for them to be able to provide for their families as well.
Mm. Now you're really talking about making change. This is awesome. We just getting started here.
Yes, composting is all about transforming waste into beautiful black gold, and we know with our youth, they're just like pieces of coal. You got to apply a little pressure to get that diamond out of them. And I've been
Mm.
so blessed to have 8 youth composters. Big shout outs to Mr. Kenneth Moss and Mr. Anthony Hawk, my current youth composters. One attends, just graduated from Ben Franklin High
Nice.
School.
Woo.
Was an honor roll student throughout his whole career at Ben Franklin High School, at Baltimore City Green Academy, and big shout outs to Anthony Hawk, who is my youth composter from my Mount Washington site, who attends Baltimore School of Arts, where he studies the violin, and he's a visual artist as well. So big shout outs to my youth. This is about giving youth an opportunity to learn small scale composting and be able to teach that to the affected citizens of Baltimore City, because we all are affected. They put incinerators and landfills in poor neighborhoods, but we know that the wind doesn't segregate or discriminate, so we all are breathing in bad air. People aren't even aware that Baltimore County and Howard County's waste is being burnt right here in Baltimore City. Do you think that Howard County and Baltimore County would allow Baltimore City to burn their waste in Baltimore and Baltimore County?
Not.
Not at all.
Absolutely not.
So this is all about education. The only way we're going to get to zero waste is through education. So I'm hoping that the Baltimore Compost Collective Program can be that compost caboose to push Baltimore towards zero waste. That's at the back of the train. So when you're going up that hill, we got to take all that waste. So we got to educate people the same way that we didn't think people could stop smoking in restaurants. We did that through education. The same way we're going to advocate about composting. So people, I want you to get your organic material, take them to the Office of Sustainability's free compost drop-offs at the Waverly and Jones Falls Expressway Farmers Market. You can drop them off from 8 to 12, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. And once again, big shout outs to DPW for providing free compost drop off at their city yards. So people start composting so we can show the city that we want curbside composting. We want clean air for Baltimore. We want green jobs for our residents here in Baltimore City. We can show the people that it can happen.
Getting chills. Now, speaking of the incinerator, I grew up in Cherry Hill, and when I was growing up, I mean, everybody had asthma. You know what I mean? Like literally, older folks had emphysema and, other kinds of upper respiratory issues and then there was all the cancer and everything. And so that was a big part of why I ended up getting into doing work to try to get to stop incinerators from being built, like new incinerators from being built, and then to get the ones that are already built shut down. And so, the Compost Collective is headquartered in Curtis Bay, which is, South Baltimore as well. Can you tell us about more about the conditions in that area and what's going on down there?
Sure. As I said, the wind doesn't segregate or discriminate, so we're all breathing in bad air. But those particular communities, Cherry Hill, Westport, Curtis Bay, Brooklyn, Lakeland are all being affected by trash incineration. When you burn trash, you create a chemical called carbon dioxide. When you bury trash, you create a chemical called methane gas, which is causing Baltimore City over $55 million in health damages. I didn't mention to the audience that I am an OSI fellow, and my project, former OSI fellow during year of COVID 2019, and my project was to educate the affected residents of Baltimore City about the benefits of composting with an emphasis on anti-incineration. Pollution has affected that neighborhood. It's in one of the most toxic areas in Baltimore City, surrounded by 2 incinerators, the Bresco incinerator, the medical incinerator that burns all the medical waste. It has a coal plant. It has a chemical company. It has a kerosene company. And when I go into schools to do compost workshops, which I've been blessed to train over 2,000 youth during my tenureship as an OSI fellowship and doing my work with the Compost Collective, I ask 2 questions. One, what is your favorite fruit and vegetable? And reason being, because all of those can be composted. And then I ask the youth, are any of you affected by asthma or cancer? 98% of those youth have asthma. The teacher goes into her desk drawer and pulls out a freezer Ziploc bag full of inhalers with ID numbers on it to give out to those students. And then all the children start talking about, my papa died from cancer, my mama has cancer, we're fighting cancer because my whole family is affected by cancer. And that is because they are burning trash right in that area. And it's causing where in Ben Franklin, they can't even field the youth team because people already have compromised respiratory systems. Then with COVID-19, because of the already compromising respiratory systems that people had, we had a high mortality rate because they already had issues with their respiratory system. So once again, let's compost because people are being affected, even though you put your trash in West Baltimore or East Baltimore or North Baltimore. The residents, every residence here is being affected by the burning of trash incineration, and composting is the alternative. They just extended the contract for Bresco, but we don't have to feed Bresco. The campaign for the Baltimore Compost Collective is compost. Learn so you don't have to burn. Starve the incinerator. So we're going to starve that incinerator. We're going to divert that material. We're going to take it to the free compost drop-offs. We're going to use collection services like the Baltimore Compost Collective, a local youth-led food scrap collection service that are hiring Baltimore City youth that are minority-owned and operated. We're going to support DPW's free compost drop-off so we can show the city that we want to divert this material. We want to starve that incinerator and feed the soil and feed the community. So that's the goal. And it just enrages me so much because this is all about a monetary gain. People are dying. Our babies are dying in South Baltimore. You hear Brenda talking about how she has been affected. Throughout the years growing up in Cherry Hill. It's time for Baltimore for us to do better, and we are getting a step closer to curbside composting. So I'm asking for everybody within my voice range to please starve the incinerator. You can put in your buckets to take to the food scrap collection site. Fresh fruits and vegetable scraps. You can take your eggshells. You can take your cut flowers, your green plants, your coffee grinds, the filters, the tea bags. But what we're going to keep out of there and we're going to say no to is our cooked food, our cheese and dairy, our meat and bones, our pet waste, our produce stickers, that oil and grease, glossy coated paper, treated and painted wood, aggressive weeds and poisonous and diseased plants. So those are the things, and I'm educating you once again because the only way we're going to get to zero waste is through education. So those are the things that you can compost. Get a bucket, recycle, reuse it, take it to those sites, take that little bit of time out of your day and say, I'm going to make a change. If you're asking what you can do, make 3 waste stations in your house, 1 for your waste, 1 for your recyclables, and 1 for your compost. And take all of those to the proper vendors so that they can take that, in the case of Baltimore Compost Collective, I'm going to take that food scraps and make it into beautiful, beautiful black gold, filled with street leaf gold.
Mm, mm, mm. My goodness. Well, I'm definitely getting my 3 buckets, and I'm sure everybody else who's watching this is going to do the same. Thank you
Clean
so
air
much
for
for that.
Baltimore.
Yes, yes.
Food and Justice is proud to be partnering with Afro Vegan Society, Thrive Baltimore Community Resource Center, My Two Foods, and Better Food Foundation.
So, like you said before, the Baltimore Compost Collective is a youth entrepreneurship program. Can you tell us some more details about the training and experience that these young folks are getting while working with the Baltimore Compost Collective?
Yes, we've been so blessed to have so many partners, Institute for Local Self-Reliance, Office of Sustainability, NRDC, Rockefeller. Big shout outs to my master students at Johns Hopkins who have been supporting me. Big shout outs to Miss Nicole Labrito. We give our youth an opportunity. Once again, not only are we diverting waste from going into the landfills and incinerators, but we're giving the youth an opportunity to learn small scale composting. So all of my youth get trained from a master composter how to compost. In turn, they're able to teach to their peers about the benefits of composting and start composting sites within their school. Ben Franklin has a 3-bin system where they currently compost, and it's run by my former student, the former graduate of Ben Franklin, Mr. Kenneth Moss. Mr. Kenneth Moss has really used this opportunity for a stepping stone. Through our entrepreneurial training, he started his own photography business called Kenneth Captures, just a kid with a camera. And he's not a kid anymore. He started out with me when he was 15 years old. He did not miss a day. He was never late. He showed up. Our motto at the Baltimore Compost Collective, we stay ready so we don't have to get ready, because we know proper preparation stops a poor performance. So Kenny has been the model for that. And I'm so excited that he's back with me. Due to COVID, we had to stop doing curbside collection, and we went to a contactless food scrap drop-off at the Ella Bailey Recreation Center in Federal Hill and in Mount Washington at Northwest Park, where our residents were able to drop off their compost without any contact, so we could stop the spread of COVID. But we are launching this week our curbside collection, once again, to show Baltimore City that we can have curbside compost pickup and we can hire youth and give them an opportunity. Not only did Kenneth start his own business, but he worked with Z Cohen as a mayor fellow during the summer, dealing with his constituents' 311 complaints. So composting has made so many opportunities for all of our youth and giving them a chance to be environmental justice leaders. I cannot do this work, and I'm not going to be one of those leaders who try to hold on. My goal is to make this a youth-owned co-op so that the youth are not workers, but they're owners. We have to empower our youth if we want them to be the future leaders of Baltimore City. Every meeting that I go to, Kenneth is by my side, learning about the opportunities and how to speak, how to do your 2-minute spell, how to get people attention, how to make your delivery exciting so that people want to listen, how to be able to speak to the village man as well as the king. All of those things, and how to always be professional no matter what is going on around you. You always keep your game face on and always strive to give A1 customer service.
I mean, I'm not a youth or anything, but I would love to come down to Curtis Bay and get involved. I mean, this sounds amazing. This is absolutely amazing. Wow.
Yes, it's been a blessing to bless others, Brenda. And I just, want to keep echoing that. Any adult within my voice, please take a youth and whatever your expertise and whatever you love to do, and find a youth that loves that same thing and help them along the way. That's how we're going to get to a bigger and a better Baltimore, by investing in our youth. And that's what the Baltimore Compost Collective, one of our major goals is, to invest in our youth so that they can become the future leaders, future environmental justice leaders for Baltimore City.
So, talking to you for more than 2 minutes, it becomes very clear that you are a very passionate environmentalist. Was there a moment of realization that started you down the path to environmentalism?
Yes. So I think you mentioned it during your talk. About 6 years ago, I was working for an after-school program called the Rediscovering Me Clubhouse, where we provided a safe alternative for youth that were dealing with substance abuse issues. And a young lady by the name of Destiny Wofford was trying to stop Incinerator from being constructed in Curtis Bay. And she worked with my youth to do the first podcast to educate people about the incinerator and how it affects Baltimore and Curtis Bay and affects all the surrounding counties as well. And just to be educated, and just her passion at 16 years old and wanting to, how a junior at Ben Franklin High School start a movement towards anti-incineration and to let people know that burning trash it's not good for the residents of Baltimore City, and it has affected her community. And for her to stand up and pass the torch to me, and at that time, I didn't know I was going to have Compost Fever, and that I would be spreading Compost Fever throughout the world. So Destiny and Charles and Greg Sartell and Miss Melody Thomas just began to educate me. And I didn't know that I would fit in to this Environmental Justice League. I call us the Environmental Justice League because we are all the superheroes for environmental justice for Baltimore City, that I would be the solution to burning trash, and I would be able to educate people. So Destiny and Charles, the two young people who started this endeavor for Baltimore City and this fight for anti-incineration for Baltimore City, sparked that flame. And just to hear her passion, and then to see the residents are affected, to walk past Curtis Bay Recreation Center that's directly across the street from a coal mine and be able to wipe my fingers, and coal is on the window, on the doors, and all on the basketball court. So we know that the young people and the residents there are breathing that in, along with the chemicals and the kerosene and the fumes from both of the incinerators. So that particular communities have been dumping grounds for this environmental injustice that's happening in Baltimore City. And we can do better. It's 2021. They have been composting in California since the 90s. Now, if they have more waste, they have to pay, because if you recycle and compost, you only need a 5-gallon bucket for your waste. So we can take the best practices from all of those cities and implement them here in Baltimore. And big shout out to our new director of DPW from Oakland, California, where they have been practicing zero waste practices. I cannot wait to meet with him to just figure out how we can create curbside compost for Baltimore City, and any role that the Baltimore Compost Collective can play to advocate for that. That's what we're here for.
Wonderful. That's so exciting. And let's just call these incinerator companies what they are, which is, companies that are committing environmental racism. I mean, that's what it is, because they specifically target low-income communities of color to put these facilities in, because they know historically that they have been able to do that. Go into these disempowered communities and do this. And so the more people who are speaking out against this, the more people who are educating others about this, the better chance we have of stopping these corporations. So thank you so much for shedding light on that.
Yes, Brenda, and to speak on that, they have been going around trying to advocate if they are green, company. If you go on their website, they try to make you think that they're a green company. You know, they have been going around trying to provide jobs and roll-offs for recyclables, but where is it going? It's going right down there to be burned. They have tried to rename themselves. Now they are Win Technologies. Win stands for me, in my opinion, is that we injure neighbors, because they injure neighbors, $55 million in health damages. So people, please educate. Don't take my word, but educate yourself on where your trash is going, what's happening to it when it gets to its final destination, and how it's affecting the communities where that facility is being located. Our children are dying. Our children are dying. We can do better, Baltimore City. They are composting in New York. And as they say in New York, if you can compost in New York, you can do it anywhere. One borough of New York is as large as Baltimore City. So we can do better. Educate yourself. Know where your trash is going. Speak to your councilmen and all the leaders of Baltimore City and say we want curbside pickup. But once again, not only tell them, but show them by taking your compost to the drop-off facilities at DPW, at the farmers markets, and drop that off so we can show the city that we are ready for curbside compost pickup, and we can starve that incinerator. We can shut them down if we can reduce the amount of material that they're getting there to process.
Yes, I feel like we just went to church. All right.
Amen.
So, so what is next for the Compost Collective?
Okay, well, we are doing, I thank you so much, Brenda. We are trying to do a cash fund campaign to get us a vehicle. We are sharing the vehicle with Baltimore's nonprofit called Green Baltimore, Homegrown Baltimore, who we share a vehicle with. And we are trying to get a vehicle so that we can increase our capacity of the amount of food scraps that we're able to pick up, and provide more opportunity for other neighborhoods in Baltimore City that would like a curbside compost collection service, and be able to hire more youth and make it into a workforce development. And as you say, my goal for the program is to become co-op, so that it's youth owned, and it's youth owned and operated, and they're not only workers, but they are the owners, so that this project will continue.
Well, I'm so excited. I learned so much, even more than, I felt like I knew before. So I really, really appreciate you coming on the show. And I'm so glad that so many people are going to be able to find out about this work. I mean, people locally know, right? But I want everybody to know. And so for those who don't know you, for those who don't know about the Baltimore Compost Collective, how can people find, follow, and support your work?
As the young people say, and they have took me out of my cave, you can follow us on Instagram at Baltimore Compost Collective. You can go to our website at baltimorecompostcollective.org. Please go to our news and gallery section. Very excited about our latest article, where a national magazine called The Guardian magazine did a feature on us called Starving the Fire, where we are deliberate about starving the fire and feeding the soil and feeding the community with the South Baltimore Land Trust. Please follow us on Instagram, on Facebook. If you have an opportunity to come to the Wakanda of South Baltimore, if you would like to get a tour of the Wakanda of South Baltimore, and the reason why I call it the Wakanda of South Baltimore is due to one of my favorite quotes from the Black Panther movie: "In times of crisis, while the foolish build barriers, the wise build bridges." And we are the bridge for the community, taking our waste and converting it into compost soil enhancer for residents who don't have access to green space to be able to grow their own food, and who live in a food desert, food apartheid neighborhood. We know that internet has become just like electricity. So at the farm, the students over at Curtis Bay Elementary School were in a internet insecure neighborhood. So we launched filbert.net. We had Wi-Fi access for that neighborhood. For students who want to do their homework, we're creating a little picnic tables where they can do their homework and get on the internet. So we have tried to be that bridge, and I am so sorry for not forgetting the gentleman who helps me every week, homegrown Mr. Mike Dorsey. Big shout outs for you for allowing us to use your van and just helping me to create the Baltimore Compost Fever. So big shout outs to Mike Dorsey.
Thank you. Thank you so much to you, Marvin Hayes, and everybody working with you, to all the youths that have been building up this program, and to everybody, you know, who's finding out about this information. You know, jump in, get involved, support, and spread the word. Thank you again, Marvin, for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Compost burn, starve the incinerator, feed the soil, feed the community. Compost around is a terrible thing to waste. Thank you so much, Brenda. And I can't wait to get my vegan buffalo wings.
All right, and thank you so much to everyone who tuned in to this episode of Food and Justice, and I will see you next time.
This has been the Food and Justice Podcast with Brenda Sanders. Join me next week as I talk with Nicoletta Bettini, economist and lead evaluator of the International Monetary Fund. If you're watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and share it. Subscribe to our channel and click the bell to request all notifications. Or if you're on Facebook, please like and share the video, like our page, and invite your friends. You can also subscribe to the show as a podcast via our website at fjpodcast.com. Support the show. Visit our website to find out how you can become a patron. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next week.